So Jess and I are back with another version of our college football segments. Show maybe? Still doesn't have a name. Honestly, I don't want any more suggestions. I think I'm good on those. I've seen everything I need to see. It's not
Please
girls.
Stop suggesting things.
Stop it.
I agree.
But we should just jump right into what James Franklin said was the two best teams in college football battling it out this weekend. And man, was he just saying things? He was just talking. I know for a fact that before the game, he was like, I know exactly what I'm going to say when this ends. I'm going to write this down. It was in the notes app. It's been there for like 3 weeks now. The two best teams in college football, it didn't look like it. It was a brutal game. Very rarely do you have such like a highly anticipated game and then you go on your Twitter feed and you see everyone just hating it. No one was having a good time.
I really respect how he was like, I'm going to get ahead of the narrative because that was two disgusting offenses playing football against one another. But I'm going to spin it as what a defensive showdown. And look, Ohio State and Penn State both have great defenses. I think Ohio State's defense in particular was incredibly impressive. But to declare it the best two teams in college football going head to head after that stinker at noon on Saturday is why this man gets paid so much money, because he can convince people somehow of anything. It didn't work this time, though. Not on me.
It's pretty much just like how he got his extension is just convincing people that he's like really great at what he does. And it was such a James Franklin game where, yes, Penn State has talent. They've recruited well, but it was the entire time. It felt like every single time Penn State got something going, James Franklin was like, I want to stop doing that. I do not like the way that is going. I think we're moving too much. We can't use the defensive battle excuse anymore. He just I've never seen a coach so guaranteed to lose in the big games the way James Franklin is. So now Penn State fans are stuck in this weird moment where you're like, all right, are we really happy with 10, 11 wins every year, knowing that we're going to lose to Ohio State and Michigan every time, which starting next year, not going to be playing Ohio State and Michigan every year? It's weird times in Happy Valley because you're just stuck, which I get. I get it better than anybody.
Yeah, it's not a terrible place to be if you're a fan. You still win a lot of games. You end up in a New Year's Six bowl game occasionally, although, like you said, all of that's going to change next year. But I just thought that, it was very funny to see how James Franklin reacted when that one reporter asked him about, why don't you guys ever chuck it up? And then they went into this game and finished with, a 0 percentile explosive play rate, which means, basically, without getting into, a analytics explanation, they just didn't do anything. Their offense just didn't do anything cool, and it was exactly why probably that reporter was asking him about it earlier this year. I'm not out on Penn State's quarterback Drew Allar. He might still be good, but they certainly didn't give him much to work with in this game, and he's young. Both quarterbacks are young. This was a big game for both of them, but yeah, it was just two pretty bad offenses, minus Marvin Harrison Jr., who is the best player on the field on either team's offense, which probably made the biggest difference for Ohio State and why they're able to win.
Though, my reaction watching this game was nobody has to feel better right now than Michigan. Even with all the sign stealing stuff, they're watching this game thinking this is going to be a cakewalk. Everything is going to be easy for us for the rest of the season. It feels like the Big Ten is already in the bag for them. Unless they do have to face Iowa, Big Ten championship game. So good luck.
Well, as long as they can continue playing and they don't get the death penalty, which I've been calling for about a week now, they should probably just have to cancel their football program. They are cheaters, whether it's cheeseburgers or sign stealing. I think Jim Harbaugh has shown you again and again he is not a fair guy. Don't play against Michigan. Everyone should boycott their game against Michigan for the rest of the season. Cheaters.
Hamburgers, filming stuff on cell phones. When does it stop? When do we say we can't take any more of this, Michigan, you elitist university that cheats just like the rest of us? I got to feel bad for the guy, though, that they were like, hey, you go to Iowa, film the signs. Film the signs.
Oh, God. What a terrible assignment. I just don't, in all seriousness, if your name's Connor Stalions, at least change it to, David Mustang when you're buying these tickets. Give yourself an alias when I heard that this man's name was Connor Stalions, I was like, surely that was just the name he was using. But no, he did not use a fake name. He had a public Venmo. Lucy, you have told me that you've like stalked people on Venmo and been able to figure out lots of secrets by looking at public Venmo notes. This is something that should be a no-brainer if you're committing NCAA crimes, which aren't really real crimes, but whatever. I guess to some people they still matter. I don't know where Michigan goes from here because I doubt anything will actually happen to them because the NCAA is so useless, but people are going to just call them cheaters forever, and their fans are going to be like, we didn't do anything. And everyone's going to be like, yes, you did. And it's going to be like the Astros or the Patriots. And it doesn't matter because they're probably still going to win the national championship this year because they actually are very good.
And Jim Harbaugh is going to flirt with the NFL the entire offseason and be like, look, I don't know what's going to happen to Michigan. I might as well give me a nice little safety plan.
I hate it so much.
Every
death penalty
time.
for Michigan.
Moving on to a different game, Jeremy Taché correctly told us that UCF would challenge Oklahoma. I was happy for him, sad for him. That was an interesting game. UCF looked really, really good. All it came down to was Gus Malzahn being like, I'm about to do the dumbest thing possible here. When they went for it on their failed 2-point conversion at the end of the game, I've never seen a dumber play call. And remember, I watch Iowa football every single weekend. Oklahoma should have lost that game. UCF lost that game. It was tough. It was real tough.
It was tough. Credit to Jer Bear. I back in New York went on my little DraftKings Sportsbook app, and I was like, I'm taking Oklahoma in the points. And man, was that a bad bet from like the first quarter on. But I really like UCF's defense has been pretty bad this year. They've had a pretty good run game, and their quarterback was back for this game. That's John Rice Plumlee. He's been out for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I think, with a leg injury. So yeah, I mean, they looked a lot better. They're still 0-4 in the Big 12, haven't won a conference game yet. And Oklahoma just looked sloppy. Like they were just letting UCF run all over them. Still, like UCF wasn't able to run as well as they have against other teams, but like Oklahoma's supposed to have this great defense, and they just kept letting them in this game. And like you said, came down to a 2-point conversion that was it was a yucky one. But Oklahoma kind of squeaked by with a win after being challenged probably more in this game than they even were by Texas a few weeks ago. Like it was really, really tense.
This keeps the dream of Texas-Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game alive, which is pretty special. Quinn Ewers is hurt, though, so that's tough, but he should be back.
Yeah. Is Arch Manning going to play this season, Lucy?
God, I hope so. Just the idea of what that's going to do to the college football world if Arch Manning balls out, create a quarterback controversy that was never really there in the first place, inject it into my veins, especially at Texas. Those boosters are going to be throwing even more money on the table.
I don't think he will play, but I mean, barring the Texas's backup gets hurt, obviously. But I agree with you. From a content perspective, it would be awesome.
God, I hope so. I really, really hope so. You said you lost money on Oklahoma. I lost money on Washington. What the actual heck?
What happened?
What? All right, so I caught the end of this game. Apparently, Michael Penix Jr. turned the ball over like 1,000 times. I was sitting there, and it was like I took Washington like minus 28.5. Like that was the line. I was like, I felt so good about it.
We're both such losers.
I felt so good about it too, and I had been perfect up until that point. So I was like, "There's no way this doesn't happen." And then Washington was like, we're going to lose it. We're going to do our very best, and we're going to try to lose it. They barely snuck it out. There were, like, questionable calls in this one. I'm not, like, thinking too much into it because I do – not that I think, like, Arizona State's a particularly tricky team, but I feel like everyone once a year has that one game where you're like, ooh, what went on there? Like, the same time, like, Georgia when they almost lost to Mizzou and they were the eventual national champions. Like, I'm not saying that Washington's going to get there, but I'm not too worried. I'm just a little pissed about the money I lost.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think if you're a North Carolina fan, we'll get to them in a second. You were like praying another team would go down into an unranked opponent to kind of take some of the pressure off. But yeah, Washington, they were able to win after what was a really ugly game for their offense. They only scored 9 offensive points to ASU, who has let a lot worse teams score more points on them. But Arizona State has, like, I think they're probably objectively the worst team in the Pac-12 this year. At least from a record standpoint. I will have to double check that, but they have been like a little feisty in games. So good for them, but maybe you write it off as a hangover game for Washington. Like, it was a late home game after they just played Oregon and like the game of the season so far for them. So hopefully they're able to rebound because they've got another like tough stretch coming up for them. And I think they slipped a little bit in the polls, but there's still a chunk of season left. They can make their way back up there.
Yeah, I believe they have USC in 2 weeks, which that will, if they win that game convincingly, which they should, then I think all the questions will be done. It was just, I don't know. Sometimes Arizona State is weird. Sometimes they're weird. But I guess
they're always weird.
We have to go here now, Taylor. How are you doing currently?
I was looking for a bag to put over my head before this segment.
So UNC lost to Virginia as a 23.5-point favorite. Did you put money on it?
No. I know better to bet on North Carolina, but this is just the Mac Brown special. They're a 20-point favorite against somebody every year, and they're going to lose. A couple years ago it was Georgia Tech. 3 years ago it was Florida State. This is just death taxes and Mac Brown losing a game he has no business losing. It
is so, and like Virginia doesn't have an ACC win yet. I don't think they have one under Tony Elliott yet. This is an insane game for UNC to have lost. It was like immediately like they were in the top 10 and Mac Brown's like, I know what I have to do. It's time to humble the guys. We need to come back down to reality. It's insanely bad.
I have a question for you, Taylor. Like, when you're a North Carolina fan and you know that one of these implosions will probably come, like, did you have a feeling this weekend that it would be against Virginia? Or were you like, no, maybe it'll be or maybe we won't have one this year. Maybe it'll be something else. Because like sometimes, like you're a college football fan, you wake up in the morning, you're like, I can just tell something terrible is going to happen to my team today. Did you have any sense this would happen?
I didn't think it was going to be Virginia at home, 23.5-point favorite. I was already looking ahead to the Georgia Tech game because Georgia Tech going to Atlanta has been a house of horrors for this North Carolina team. I think they're like 2-10 their last 12 trips to Atlanta. But Virginia, it was never supposed to be Virginia. I should have known something was off the second the game was on the CW, which, by the way, great broadcasting experience on the CW.
It's really good.
They've been doing wonderful work.
I am enjoying the CW game. They may be cursed. Like this is the second weekend in a row an unbeaten ACC team has lost on the CW. I love the like trickling of fans every week who are like, wait, what? There's football on the CW? Like I was at a bar and I asked the bartender to turn on the CW and I think he thought I was putting on like Supernatural and I was like, no, there's like North Carolina's losing to Virginia. I have to turn it on. I think the craziest thing about this game was that Virginia had the dreaded fumble into the end zone for a touchback happen to them and they still were able to win. Like how do you win after that? That's usually like a death knell for any team. It's like, god damn it, you gave the other team the ball back when you're about to score. This is terrible. There's no coming back from it. But no, Virginia somehow still held on to win it. I thought it was incredible.
Since 1998, North Carolina is 1-5 as a top 10 team. Some teams just not built for big time college football. And I'm starting to accept that if this North Carolina team with Drake May couldn't get over the hump, it might never happen.
Well, maybe it's good that this happened so you won't be in the top 10 when you're playing Duke.
Spin zone, yes.
You are welcome for that. Wow, yeah, that was
Taylor,
a bummer.
that was so sad. Like you're just accepting your fate. I mean, I've been in your shoes so many times. Just watching Notre Dame lose blowout after blowout to like Alabama and Clemson and Alabama again. It's tough to have to reckon with that, but I think it seems like you're handling it well.
Yeah, Virginia tried to give him the game too, and Omar Hampton, the ACC's leading rusher, gets 5 carries in the second half. He's averaging like 7 yards per carry, and it's a 1-score game, and we're like, nope, let's just keep airing it out with Drake May, who lucked off the entire night, and Carolina's receivers had a bunch of drops. It was just a disaster from the start.
There's a little James Franklin in everyone, you know? Well, I guess we have to talk about it just a little bit. Taylor was not the only one who experienced a devastating loss this weekend. I'll give my statement. I'll give my PR. That was a very bad call. It was a bad call when it happened. It was a bad call after it when I saw all the different angles. This, not this. This, not this. For the audio listeners, one, clearly my arm is to the side. The other, up. They're very different. Absolute terrible call. I think my most depressing moment of the weekend is when it was called back. There was a minute 40 on the clock, and I was like, ugh, we're not going to get the 20 yards we need to score. This game is over. And that is exactly what happened. How can you not move 20 yards? You be the Iowa offense. Throw an interception instead. It's absolutely fine. It's fine.
Lucy, this was one of the stupidest ways to lose a football game that I've ever seen. They came out in this game the same as they have in every other game by not scoring points, but doing stuff on defense. The under, I think, was, 30 points, 31 points. And it hit by a mile, a country mile, Lucy. But I cannot fathom this call at the end of the game. I've seen people way smarter than me go back and forth on this for days. I just can't, like you said, the arm is to the side. It's clear he's waving his own team off the ball from what I can tell. Not waving his hand over his head like he's going to fair catch it. I just could not believe the way that this game ended. I also love that PJ Fleck was like, nope, this was the right call.
Yeah,
this was yeah, this was the right call. And I'm like, PJ, you don't have to say that.
A text I got during the game was, did that save PJ Fleck? Because he had never beaten Iowa since he had been there. Not having a good season. This is a Minnesota team that is not very good. Apparently an Iowa team that's not very good either. Just rough all around. Just not an enjoyable experience. But when you rely on defense and special teams to win your games and you can't do anything offensively, you put yourself in a position where bad calls happen and you only move the ball 2 yards and 1/2. That is your own fault.
So, can you repeat that? I'm sorry. They had how many yards in 1/2?
1, 2, uno, dos. I believe it was 12, and then I think the sack took away 10 yards, but I'm not positive on that. Once
doesn't matter.
Yeah, once it was called back, I said, Iowa, they don't have a shot at winning this game. I feel bad for Cooper DeJean. He's an elite returner. That is the second time he has saved Iowa's ass with a
incredible
return.
Name, too.
Yeah. So good.
Oh, man.
He's the best
I'm sorry,
at everything.
Lucy.
But
Can we talk about Michigan again real quick, just to talk about what happened at the Michigan State on the video board? This has been said by many people, so I feel like I shouldn't have to say it, but I will. Don't put Hitler on your video board.
Yeah, don't do it.
If you're gonna play a video from YouTube, watch it first. It was the explanation makes sense. They put a video on the video board. It was a trivia thing in the context of the video. Sure. I guess that's interesting trivia, although it's not even that good of a trivia question about where Hitler was born. But watch it before you put it on your Jumbotron, because then someone's going to pull their phone out and take a picture of you with Hitler on your video board, and you don't want to do that. That is not right. That is not good, especially given the political climate right now. Don't put Hitler on your video board, period, ever, end of sentence. Michigan State, what a calamity of errors this season. It is just one more reason that the rest of the Big Ten is laughing at you. Holy shit. Don't put Hitler on your video board.
Another note to that, if you are making a trivia YouTube video, I would avoid the Hitler questions in general, but if you are going to have one, use an unflattering photo. Don't use a LinkedIn headshot. Use a bad photo. There was a whole lot of elements to this. Michigan State is such a...
I haven't heard that take yet.
It was a very...
lighting too good.
It was like that. You picked a nice photo, and you shouldn't have done that. You should have picked a really bad photo. This is... Wow. So let's look ahead to this weekend. It's kind of a letdown. Not the best college football weekend we've had so far. We have Oregon, Utah, which should be good. Georgia, Florida, Duke, Louisville, and then they put Colorado, UCLA on primetime.
Which is amazing. I love it. They're like, we know that Deion Sanders is going to get better ratings than our other Pac-12 games, so we're just going to put that one on primetime. So Deion's playing on ABC against UCLA. I expect UCLA to win. They've got a really good defense, but they have had some struggles on offense, so maybe it will be interesting. I'm going to watch that one for sure. The thing that stinks, though, is that the Duke and Louisville games and the Oregon and Utah games are at the same time. So we're going to have to do some YouTube multi-viewing. I will be at the Notre Dame Pitt game this weekend, which is also at 3:30, and hoping that Notre Dame doesn't get Narduzzi'd. Pitt lost in a absolutely brutal fashion. I think it got overshadowed by a lot of the other carnage in the ACC this weekend, but go watch the end of the Pitt Wake Forest game, which is a disgusting sentence. I concede that. A Christian Veillere slide for a first down was like a pivotal play in the fourth quarter. One of the most just, I don't even say like bad play calls because like it's so subjective, like when a player starts sliding, but the entire end of the game hinged on it, and it was crazy. So you should go watch that if you like watching Pitt lose.
I like seeing Pat Narduzzi happy, though. I love seeing him happy, but not this weekend. I want to see you happy more. You? Yeah, he's so... When he's walking out there all confident with props and shit, there's nothing better. Absolutely not. When he's got a prop, he is at his absolute best. Vibes are so high.
Speaking of props,
yes,
we have to talk about UTSA's head coach, Jeff Traylor, doing a little head coaching bit with mousetraps and smashing his finger in a mousetrap.
What? I don't even understand what the mousetrap was for, like what it symbolized.
Don't take the cheese. I think it means like they're on a win streak right now. I think it means like don't get distracted, like stay focused, because if you go for the cheese, you're going to get your hand smashed. I guess he went for the cheese though. I mean, I would go for the cheese too. I love a little square of Swiss, a little camembert, maybe some brie, maybe a little blue cheese. Maybe some goat cheese. Cheddar.
Him going to the team doctor being like, we have a problem with the mousetrap on his fingers. Oh my God. I love college football coaches. I think more props should be involved everywhere we go.
Blue vases, mousetraps, whatever else we got. Connor Stalions. Bring the props with you everywhere. I agree.
This weekend, though, you brought up a good point. I realized Florida, Georgia also at 3:30. This
what
is
the hell,
everything's
TV networks?
on the exact same schedule. Kind of a bummer. I am really excited for Oregon, Utah, though. I think that is going to be our best game of the weekend. Utah's got a really good defense. I saw them at USC this weekend. Made Caleb Williams cry. Oregon.
That's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. Also, anyone saying he should sit out the rest of the season, be so serious right now.
That would be very silly.
He's so for real right now. He's not going to sit out the rest of the season, and he shouldn't do it. Feels like a big game for the Pac-12. Both have one conference loss. Something I realized last week when I left the game, and it like didn't hit me till I saw Utah fans celebrating after, is like that was the end of that rivalry. That's done now. USC and Utah are not going to play each other every year, and this is another game that we're going to lose that's normally pretty good.
Oh, man. That made me sad, Lucy. You got to see the last one. I also, USC is playing Cal this weekend. It shouldn't be that big of a test for them, but they're on a 2-game losing streak, and Lincoln Riley is sick. Cliff Kingsbury is back in college football as the, stand-in head coach for Lincoln Riley while he's sick. I don't know how long Lincoln Riley will be sick, but it seems like he's like pretty ill and has to stay home. So hope he gets better soon. But Cliff Kingsbury will be back on the sideline of a college football game for the first time since he was at Texas Tech, Lucy.
God, I wish he was better at defense because that's what they need.
Right.
That's where the problem lies. To let a pig farmer do that to you, and Kyle Whittingham out here being like, "We'll take our pig farmer over your Heisman winner any day." It's a shame they're not joining the Big Ten. It really is.
They really would fit in well. I agree with you. All right. Well, we're almost done for this week. Before we go, gotta give Miami their kudos, Lucy. One in overtime,
Yes.
Tough one against Clemson with their backup quarterback, Dabo Swinney, with the quote of the week, saying in his press conference that Clemson's team psychologist would be on suicide watch.
It was funny. It was very funny. The delivery was very good. Dabo can tell a joke.
He has apologized since. He has said some crazy things in his day. Between that and Jeff Traylor and
God's name, image,
Sparty,
likeness.
it's been a banner week for college football.
God, I lost money on that one too. I had Clemson money line.
I did too. God damn it.
God, Washington, Clemson, and we don't have the Iowa game this week. They're on a bye. How am I supposed to make money? No wonder. DraftKings, what are you going to do about that?
There is some breaking news before we go, Lucy. Charlie Weis, the former head coach of Notre Dame and Kansas of New England Patriots lore, tweeted, One request, moving forward, please drop the junior when discussing my son. He has earned top billing, and if either of us should be tagged, just call me senior. I'm proud of him both on and off the field, and he deserves number one status. Just call him Coach Charlie Weis. Thank you. What a tweet. His son, Charlie Weis Jr., the co-offensive coordinator at Mississippi, now officially has become Charlie Weis. Big day for Nepo babies everywhere. So Charlie Weis Sr. is right. Charlie Weis Jr., probably a better coach. Now he's just Charlie Weis. From now on, the young one has become Charlie Weis.
Meanwhile, Kirk Ferentz is going to Brian right now and being like, I need you to take your mom's maiden name. I need you to do that for me. I know you're in your 40s. I really need you to get this done.
Please change your name. You're bringing shame to our family.